And hello, welcome to this video. So in this video, I'll be touching on how to monitor your temperature. Okay, monitor your CPU temperature and manage your CPU temperature in OpenFOAM using some of the tools given in Linux. Specifically Arch Linux or Manjaro, especially. I'm using Manjaro, so I'll be touching it from that perspective. So why are we doing this? Okay, why are we doing this? Okay, we are doing this because when you run OpenFOAM, excuse me. Yeah, when I was running OpenFOAM, I found that running some intense OpenFOAM jobs does make my CPU pretty hot. How hot? About 90 to 95 degrees C. Okay, you do not want your CPU running at this sort of temperatures for extended periods of time. So there was a good need to really manage some of this CPU power and CPU temperatures, especially when you're running a lot of OpenFOAM jobs in parallel for very long times. So first up, I talk about why we need to do that to manage your CPU temperature. You don't want it running at 90 to 95 degrees C for very long times, and especially if some of you are running intense OpenFOAM jobs for that long, you want to manage your CPU temperature. You probably don't want to run it at 90 to 95. Maybe 80 is like, sort of a high limit. 60 to 70 is a very comfortable limit. Okay, so let's start first by asking ourselves, how hot is our CPU? Okay, how hot is our CPU? For this command, we use the sensors command in Linux. Okay, sensors command in Linux, and it tells us now that the CPU is running about 77 degrees C, which is not fantastic, not optimal, but at least it's still more bearable than 90 plus degrees C. Okay, so this will only give us a snapshot of what the CPU temperatures are like. This one's around 80 degrees C now. Okay, how do you then automate this to run every 2 seconds? You use the command called watch. Okay, so you are having two commands now. You use watch to run a command every 2 seconds. So if I type watch sensors, it will run sensors every 2 seconds, and I won't have to keep typing it again and again, just to have a real-time sense of temperature. So I can just use watch sensors instead, and you will have sensors run every 2 seconds. Okay, perfect. Now, of course, I didn't do this myself. You can go in Google online, Stack Overflow, and whatever will have some solutions on how to monitor your CPU temperature pretty effectively and manage it. I'm just compiling it together in one video so that you don't have to search it out yourself. Okay. Of course, that's if you're using Manjaro. If you use Ubuntu, you need a different set of tools. But here's some very good tools, TLP and Powertop, from this video called Linux Management, Power Management and Monitoring with TLP and Powertop by DorianDotSlash. I accessed it around the end of July 2021. So this is a very good video. And this is a very good Arch Linux article to show you how to change your CPU clock rate. Okay, why do you want to change CPU clock rate? Again, because if you use less CPU power, the CPU will then generate less heat, and you won't be so-called as worried when you run simulations for very long. Okay, so I've gone through the tools and links that I refer. You can see them in the video description. I will not go through them too much. I'll only go through what's relevant. So for now, let's go through Powertop. Okay, for now, let's go through Powertop. So what is Powertop? Okay, Powertop is a command you run, which will help you to gauge, how fast your CPU is running. Okay, of course, it can do lots of other stuff as well. When you install Powertop, you probably have to look inside your app store, and you start running, you look for this Powertop, okay, which you will see here. I use the official repositories, or you can do pacman. Okay, you can run pacman. You can yeah, you can run pacman to install it if I'm not wrong. But in the Manjaro case, just use the software store, which is PowerMac. Okay, it should be fine. So if I restart, if you already installed Powertop through the App Store or pacman, okay, you will see that if you run Powertop, you must run it with root privileges. So you have to do sudo Powertop. Okay, so sudo Powertop, and I'll bring you straight into the interface. Okay, so this is the interface of Powertop. You will have an overview. You have some idle stats, frequency stats, etc., etc. You will use tab to help you switch through the various tabs. So the one I want to focus on is this thing called frequency stats. You can see that all the CPUs are running around approximately 3 gigahertz. Okay, so that's Powertop. And basically, these things will auto-update every few seconds or so. It won't be as fast as this watch, but you know, these things will actually auto-update every now and then. Okay, you can scroll through it up and down, and you'll see that all the CPUs here, have a certain clock rate. Again, this is an 8-core but 16-thread computer, i7-10875H. So that's why you have 16 threads or 16 so-called CPUs. Okay, so 2 CPUs per core, and they're running around 3 gigahertz. Okay, so this is Powertop, which will help you to monitor the frequency stats. Of course, you can use it to do your what do you call that? Set up some power profiles and settings, but that's not what I'm going to go through. What I want to go through is a live demonstration of us tuning our CPU clock rate up and down. So that's using CPU power. Now, CPU power is just basically a process and a command that helps you to manage your CPU clock rates. And especially if your temperature is too high and you start getting worried, you can start using it to manage your CPU temperature. So let's talk about CPU power. I'm going to run it, and you'll say supported. If you just type CPU power here, it will say supported commands are frequency info, frequency set, blah blah blah. So frequency set is the one you kind of want to go for, because that will help you to ascertain and see whether this will help you to set your maximum clock rate. Now, if you don't know how to use frequency set or frequency info, you can just type CPU help or CPU power help frequency set. Okay, then it will show you the full help and how you're supposed to use it. Okay, so this is saying a small CPU frequency set, CPU power frequency set is just it just allows you to modify the CPU frequency settings. Okay, now by default on Linux or Manjaro, CPU power should already be running. Okay, so how do you check that out? I think you use system ctl status CPU power. So system ctl status CPU power. Okay, it says that this thing is inactive. So, but it is so-called loaded. Okay, and it's an inactive process. But that's okay. Cause all you need to do is just to use the commands to help you adjust your maximum and minimum clock rate. So again, let's go CPU power frequency set. Okay, frequency set And how do you you know, how do you change it? Okay, you can look at this thing, look at the autocomplete. It will show you the options, okay, by pressing tab 2 times. So let's do CPU power, double tap. It will give you some options. So you can do frequency set, and then the autocomplete will be there. Then you just double tap again, or triple tap for that matter. You will be shown some flags you can set. So let's say you see your CPU power is now 85. Okay, this thing is running around 85 degrees C now. Okay, let me show you what it was like originally. Okay, I was running my clock speeds at around 4 gigahertz, and this was the temperature that was concerning me. Okay, so this is the command I need to run, but it says CPU frequency set needs the sudo privileges. So I'm just going to run sudo on this. Okay, and it will set my CPU frequency. Now, look at this. I set the max frequency at 4 gigahertz, and now my temperatures are at about 90 plus degrees C. This is the original setting, not something I want. I can see already the CPU frequencies are running, much higher than they used to. Okay, you can see now they're running at 3.4 gigahertz, 3.3 gigahertz. Okay, so that becomes your maximum power, so to speak. Now, of course, the fans and everything are adjusting their rates so that things don't run so quickly, so as to manage the temperature. Yeah, around 90 degrees C is where you start to have maybe some throttling, where the BIOS might start to power down the CPU. Now, even then, I don't want my CPU to run at this sort of temperatures. It's way too much. It's way too much. Okay, so it's going at 85. It's going down. So how do I set down the CPU power, CPU frequency? Well, I can do sudo CPU power. Instead of max at 4.0 gigahertz, let's do 3 gigahertz. Okay, so once I do that, you will see almost immediately the temperature should start to drop. Okay, you see now it's dropping to about 83, 85 degrees C, and you see your CPU clock rates start to drop as well. Okay, if you want to set it down even slower, 2.5 gigahertz. Okay, and that should really pull down the temperature to somewhere a little bit more comfortable. You can see Powertop is showing us that the clock rate is dropping dramatically. Okay, so now you can see the CPU temperature is, I think, around 79 degrees, 80 degrees. Okay, we give this Powertop, see, it updates, but it doesn't update as fast. So it's about 2.5 gigahertz now. So now we've managed to reduce our temperature below 80 degrees C. Okay. Of course, there are other ways you can also set your max CPU frequency. You can just type in the exact number of your CPU frequency in hertz. Okay, so if I want to set it to 2.2 gigahertz, so it's 2,000,000 and 200,000 hertz. So 200,000. Okay, that will set my CPU clock rate even lower. We'll give it around another 10 seconds. Your Powertop will start to show that your CPU frequencies are starting to drop. They should start to drop. Okay, so you give it a little while more, and you can see again the results are quite immediate. We are lowering our temperatures now, and we see everything now is changed to 2.2 gigahertz. Now, of course, the processors will run slower. Processors will indeed run slower in your CPU, and that should be fine. But yeah, at least it shows that, you know, there's a way to manage your temperature. There's really a way to manage your temperature. So normally what I like to do is to set it around maybe 3 gigahertz or 3.2 gigahertz. It's somewhere, you know, something I can stomach. Okay, so this is like my default setting. I want it to run at about 3.2 gigahertz. I see it's already going on 80, 85. Okay, it's still manageable. The fans will of course blow a little bit faster just to try and cool the thing down a little bit more. But oh man, 88. Okay, so yeah, maybe that's not too good an idea if I'm running a video. But you know, it's much better and more tolerable than 95 degrees C, or the low 90s or the high 80s that we saw it regularly going to. Now, of course, if I don't run OBS Studio, which is the video recording software, the temperature should drop even more because I'm not using it as high. But yeah, this is basically what you can do. Maybe let's do 2.9 gigahertz as a final power setting, just to shift the temperature down to somewhere a little bit more comfortable during this video. So I want it around 80, 83. That's still palatable. Okay. Once the lower you set it, well, your CPU is supposed to live longer if you don't torture it with excessively high temperatures. So that's a good recommendation to really, you know, keep watch on your CPU temperatures. Keep watching your CPU temperatures, especially when you run OpenFOAM jobs. Yeah, of course, you can use your sense of touch. You can use your hand to feel the laptop to see if it's overheating. So these are some important tools that you probably want to use to set your CPU temperatures right. And yeah, hopefully this helps you to this helps you to monitor and manage your CPU temperatures. I hope this will also allow you to not break your laptop or break your computer too early. All right. So thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.